Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and today we have to go over some pretty important news in regards to changes to payments for Final Fantasy XIV services in North America. Now that includes anything that you pay for off the MOG station or off the Final Fantasy XIV online store directly. And these changes, again, specifically apply to people with North American addresses used for their payment information for Final Fantasy XIV. So before we go any further, let's read the post and then we'll talk about what all of this actually means and why it's happening. Thank you for your continued support of Final Fantasy XIV. We have an announcement regarding upcoming changes related to game subscriptions, as well as all purchases made from the MOG station and Final Fantasy XIV online store. Beginning June 25th, 2024, that's 3 days before Dawn Trail comes out, or at least goes into early access, all customer transactions on the Final Fantasy XIV online store and MOG station, including game subscriptions, will be subject to any state or local sales tax where applicable. Any purchases made following the introduction of these changes will be adjusted to include estimated sales tax based on the address registered on the Square Enix account from which the purchase is made. Please note that this change will also apply to reoccurring subscriptions paid by credit card or Krista to your service account, and any subscription charges processed following the introduction of these changes will also be subject to applicable sales tax. To avoid incorrect charges, please ensure the address registered to your account is correct, basically in line with the thing that they made us do over the last couple of months. So, some people are hearing this going, oh my goodness, they're raising the cost of the game, and other people are hearing this like, wait, they didn't do that already? Yeah, so in most places around the world, this was already happening. I know that over in Europe and the UK, there's things like VAT taxes and whatnot. There's also certain laws in Canada, for example, and other countries where they were already collecting sales tax. In fact, this is only really even a change for non-Steam, or I think also non-Xbox players. I'm fairly certain that both Steam and Xbox were already doing this. And it's really just the people who weren't using those services, who were just using the Square Enix site directly. Essentially, for those who don't live in the United States, every single state has its own laws in regards to the collection of sales tax for digital goods. And that seemingly wasn't being enforced. Either Square was paying it on their end, or they just weren't enforcing it because the states themselves weren't enforcing it. It would appear that regardless of what it is, they are now going to actually be doing this properly. Sorry, I think I hit my microphone there. And thus it will be reflected. Now that means for some locations, nothing is changing. For example, I live in California, and California is exempt from digital goods sales tax. So my subscription would be staying exactly the same after this change. But for somebody in, I believe, Florida, for example, has, what's the percent? I think it's, I don't remember, you know what, it doesn't matter. Florida has sales tax on digital goods from what I understand. So if you live in Florida or your address is in Florida, then your cost would be increasing by whatever your state sales tax is. And again, Steam players have already been doing this, so it's just kind of equalizing all of the platforms. I do think that this announcement's in kind of a weird place. One, I don't think they properly described why they're doing this. And a lot of the times we get really long explanations about things where we don't really feel like we needed it. This was one of those cases where they probably should have taken the time and actually covered why they're doing this and how it compared to other prices in other platforms and regions like Steam and Xbox, like we mentioned here. But instead, it just presents as the cost of your game will go up unless you are properly educated in what all of these things actually mean versus the different platforms and locations around the world and even just around the United States. So they definitely could have done a better job of presenting this. Number two, there hasn't been an update on the issues that people have been having with Visa. So to get this without having a resolution to that, I mean, obviously the two are in some capacity, or at least one would assume, unrelated. Yes, they both deal with the changes that were made to their new payment processor, which is properly enforcing those digital goods sales taxes, it would appear. And now they have to pass this along. And just because they have to do this doesn't mean that they've stopped working on the Visa issue, et cetera, et cetera. But there's been no resolution to that. And again, to present another change without a resolution to the previous change, you know, it causes a somewhat reasonable knee-jerk reaction to see this on top of the other thing and just kind of get more upset. So, I feel like this is just a combination of really not good things all happening at about the same time that will very much target certain people and make things worse for them, And other people, you know, like me, I haven't had any issues paying. My sales tax isn't going up. I just have to pass this along to other people and make sure I do as good of a job as I can of explaining why it is the way that it is. Not that it really mitigates the reality of what it will mean for some people and their wallets. Now, more interestingly is how this affects people who have North American payment addresses who are playing outside of North America. Because you now as a well, I don't want to say as a non-US resident, maybe you're just, you know, in another location for school or you're traveling or whatever the reason is, you now need to make sure to go and check what your sales tax is or what the laws are for your sales tax in the individual state that you're registered for. Because there's probably people that play in Canada, Japan, people who are stationed in military bases who are, I knew someone who played in a military base with like 600 ping, you know, they would have to think about this. So there's lots of individual cases that need to be considered. So if you are someone that has a North American address for your payment information, take that extra step, find out what the change is going to be, what it's going to cost you, what the conversion is to wherever you're currently living, et cetera, et cetera. And that highlights issue number 3. I actually saw this as, I think, the top post on Reddit when I went to get more information about this to do a bit more research. And it was a post that I think said, Square Enix, please understand that people move sometimes. And that's a big thing. If you've moved out of country, you really have no way of getting around this change here. I mean, people are coming up with ways to pay for the game and make sure they can still play while not actually living in the country that they're registered, because they can't change what country they're registered in. But it's a whole bunch of headaches that kind of need to be addressed as a whole, because issues like this looming with your payment system are not good. People really want to be excited about Dawntrail. People really want to think about paying their month-to-month subscription and, you know, having fun and, you know, feeling like they got their money's worth. But when there's been these repeated issues and these things that seemingly take a very long time to fix, if not, you know, just not fix them at all, like the change to the location, it puts a damper on it. And even for the people not affected, we see it, we go, man, that's just... it really needs, something needs to happen. Like, that's not affecting me, but like, I don't want it to affect the people I play with. I don't want it to affect my friends. And I just don't want this kind of dark cloud looming over this one aspect of the game. And this just adds to the pile of payment related issues and address related issues that especially have sprung up over the last couple months. Listen, I beat it to death. You understand, but I had to pass this news along and make sure that you were all prepared, because some of you may be seeing an increase in your subscription if you meet any of the criteria that I've mentioned throughout this video. Anyway, with that, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for keeping up with the news. Be sure to like and subscribe. Not only will I have more information on news like this, especially if we get an update on that visa update. Aloha, be quiet, I'm recording. But on top of that, anything Dawntrail related, you're going to want to be here, of course, because I always talk about all the different jobs and the new raids, guides for the new trials, first time clear. I always just post a ton of stuff. So just come on in. Just come on in. Yeah, just welcome in. Anyway, thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care.